She delivered the words like she'd been storing them up for years. "You've always been nothing but a burden." The knife in her hand paused mid-slice over the turkey. My brother chuckled, fork dangling between his fingers, as smug and cutting as ever. "At least I give this family something to be proud of." I set my fork down, not glancing at either of them, not letting them read my face. I rose from the table, coat draped over my arm, my plate still warm. I didn't slam the door. Slamming would have been an admission. We hadn't always been at odds. Or at least I didn't think we were. My brother was older, louder, magnetic. As kids, I followed him everywhere, chasing a little of his light. Every so often, when no one else was around, he'd throw me a smile. I mistook that for love. Mom worshipped him in a way that could be dangerous. Her eyes sparkled at his wins and dulled at mine. I thought if I pushed harder, gave more, she'd finally see me. She did see me, just not in the way I wanted. Dad drifted above the conflict, catching fragments but never stepping in. He called it keeping the peace. I called it taking sides by doing nothing. The fractures started small. Snide comments disguised as jokes. Group chats I somehow wasn't part of. My brother moving into Dad's old rental, for just a few months, rent-free. Mom paying his bills until he got on his feet. Then one evening I dropped by Dad's place with his medication. Scattered across the table were overdue mortgage notices. My parents' house. When I asked, Dad muttered about temporary cash flow problems. My brother's name was on the account. Mine wasn't. That was when the burn in my chest cooled into something sharper. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse. I started paying attention. I noticed Mom's purse always sat open when my brother visited. I noticed Dad would sign anything if it meant avoiding a fight. I noticed my brother flaunted trips, cars, and investments, never saying where the money came from. One night, I logged into the joint mortgage account. Dad had given me the password years ago, in case of emergency. The last 3 payments were missing. The withdrawals. Perfectly timed with my brother's newest purchases. They'd erased me. That was their mistake. It's easier to work in the shadows when no one's watching you. Began shifting pieces. First, I persuaded Dad to let me handle his taxes this year. I found out exactly how much debt was in my brother's name, and how much of it clung to the family home. Next, I went to the bank. I told them my father was vulnerable and being financially exploited by a relative, words they can't ignore. They froze joint withdrawals for review. My brother's free ride stopped cold. I knew he'd run to Mom. I knew she'd call. I didn't pick up. Then came the final step, painful but necessary. I transferred enough from my savings to cover 2 months of mortgage payments, under my name and contact info. From then on, the bank called me about any issues, not them. Waited. 3 weeks after Thanksgiving, Dad rang. His voice was tight. "Why is the mortgage unpaid?" I could hear Mom in the background, hissing at him to hang up. I pictured my brother pacing, tearing through his phone for answers that didn't exist. Kept my voice calm. "Ask your pride and joy." Silence followed, the kind that lands when the truth hits dead center. The fallout wasn't loud. That's the thing about financial collapse. It's quieter than you'd think. My brother's credit tanked. The bank launched an investigation into misuse of joint funds. Those investments he bragged about. Sold at a loss. Mom's savings, the ones she funneled to him, gone. Dad had to choose between keeping the peace and surviving. He chose survival. The confrontation took place in Mom's kitchen, the same one I'd walked out of months before. My brother stood there, eyes red, jaw clenched. Mom was between us, a human shield. "You destroyed him," she snapped. "No," I said, pulling a folder of bank statements from my bag. "He did that himself. I just stopped the bleeding before it took you all down with him." She wouldn't look at the papers. My brother did. His face changed slowly, like when shock turns into something heavier. "You think you're better than me?" he asked. I stepped forward. "No. I think you're finished." I left the folder behind. No shouting. No door slamming. I didn't need to win in their eyes. I'd already won where it mattered. The house is safe now. Dad calls every week. Mom doesn't, but I sleep just fine without it. My brother lives in a cramped one-bedroom he can barely afford. And me, I sleep peacefully. Because revenge isn't